Welcome to Week 2 of Educational Research, Summer 2010. During this brief presentation, I will be presenting some of the information associated with Parts 4 through 10 of the course outcomes, with the hope of helping you get started working in a group with your projects and to clearly see how the information covered for the reading quizzes number 2 and number 3 are directly associated with the course project. And so I will be relating some of the information that I'm going to be presenting specifically to Part 3 of the request for proposal for the course project that is found starting on page 7 of the RFP handout. Parts 4 through 10 in the course outcomes are all associated with the topic of experimental research. The chapters in the book associated with these outcomes include the big, giant Chapter 13 on experimental research, a chapter on sampling, one on instrumentation basics, the importance of validity and reliability, and also threats to internal validity, and finally, what to do with data once you collect it. And that is presented in 2 chapters dealing with both descriptive and inferential statistics. As I mentioned, all of these outcomes are associated with the experimental research portion of the RFP project that you're going to be working on. As you probably know by now in looking at the request for proposal, you need to develop a research design that includes both an experimental or quasi-experimental quantitative section or portion as well as a qualitative piece. These 2 reading quizzes, 2 and 3, address information and examples associated with outcomes that are helping you learn about experimental research. Now, here is a very important message that I need to give about how to begin your research project. And that is, if you look on page 7 of your request for a proposal, this is the proposal development guide. The very first thing you need to do is to describe the purpose of your study. And this is the first thing that you need to decide about with your group. Now, the thing that I need to tell you is that all of the research problems that I should get for every project done by every student in this summer section should be research projects or research problems associated with 2 important variables: the variables of learning styles and the variable of instructional strategies or instruction strategies designed to help facilitate learning for people or learners with specific learning styles. And so every problem that I review for this project needs to address both learning styles and instructional strategies associated with particular learning styles. And that's really important because your problem is the very first thing that you need to work out or reach consensus with your group. Now let me just give you a couple of examples of what I'm talking about. Suppose you were interested in doing some research associated with problems regarding reading strategies, that is, instructional strategies designed to facilitate how well a young learner might acquire particular reading skills. A problem associated with this that includes both learning styles and strategies could be the question: do picture books, for example, have a positive effect on the learning of reading skills for visual learners? Another good example would be questions that you might have about the way young children learn mathematics. And again, a similar research problem could be, do manipulatives, or I should say, are manipulatives more effective for helping kinesthetic learners acquire math skills over other types of learners or learners who possess other learning styles. Once you identify your research problem, then it's important to generate a hypothesis that is based on your own experiences as professional educators. So these will not be just guesses about what you think the answer to the problems are. These are going to actually be educated guesses based on your own observations, your own experiences. All of you possess educational experiences that are richer than most people walking around planet Earth. And so you are in a position to make an educated guess about what you think the answer to your research problem is, and that would be your hypothesis. For example, you might say that picture books will be more effective for visual learners in terms of helping them acquire reading skills over learners who possess other types of learning styles. You might say that math manipulatives will be more effective for kinesthetic learners. Unless you're Dr. Willingham, in which case you would say that math manipulatives will not be more effective for kinesthetic learners over any other type of learners. You might say that math manipulatives will help all learners acquire skills and help them improve their math skills. If so, that would be an important hypothesis to support, because you would be supporting the notion that there are some universal methodologies that are more effective for particular skill types. So in either case, whether you support this hypothesis or don't, the results of an experiment designed to test this hypothesis would yield something valuable for people who are interested in designing effective learning experiences. So your first order of priority is to generate a research problem, and then you have a hypothesis associated with that problem. Your next step is to do a literature review, a review of the literature to determine what has already been done as far as research goes related to the specific nature of the learning strategies you identified, and perhaps the learning styles that you will be using to help categorize learners. Once you generate a literature review, you may review your question as well as your hypothesis and revise them as necessary. It's important to consider the fact that Willingham's book is a great place to start as far as a literature review for learning styles. He references quite a few good research studies and authors who address the topic of learning styles and also learning strategies associated with learning styles. This doesn't mean that you have to agree with Willingham's contentions in his book. It just means that he's a good place to start.